Star Wars is in a strange place right now, and for a lot of people it has been dead for quite a while, and I get it. The sequel trilogy was a complete disaster, but I am one of those fools who has continued to watch the stuff that has been coming out, The Mandalorian, even Book of Boba Fett, all that stuff, even Clone Wars, Bad Batch, all that stuff. I've enjoyed some stuff from all that. I'm like, okay, there is still some things out here that I could sit here and enjoy. You know, it's a good way for me to kind of ignore it for a little bit, all the bad stuff that happened. I can look at The Mandalorian, say in season 2, the Clone Wars season 7, some of the Bad Batch. I can look at those and be like, I like that. That was kind of nice. I like that stuff. It's a lot better than what we got with the sequels and, Obi-Wan Kenobi and all that stuff. Right? But now Star Wars has entered this strange place within the past year. Okay, I would say it really kicked up with the Book of Boba Fett. It entered this new era of just bad. The Book of Boba Fett was an extremely overrated, I don't know if it was overrated, but it just was so underproduced. It looked super cheap and underproduced, and the story was just not, it was very, very lackluster for what a Boba Fett show should be. Beta Fett, as a lot of people like to call him, because it's just not the story you'd expect for Boba Fett. It was very strange. They had 2 random Mandalorian episodes shoved in there to undo the Luke Skywalker thing in Mando, and now in Mandalorian season 3, Grogu does nothing. So the story point that they had in season 2 was undone. So now Mando season 3 is just this random mess of story where Grogu doesn't do a damn thing anymore, and now we get Lizzo and Jack Black. That's the type of stuff we get now. And Bo-Katan has taken over Din Djarin's story, so now it is Bo-Katan's story. It's no longer Din Djarin's story, and I don't know what's going on anymore. The story is all over the place. We had a random flashback of Grogu's rescue. We had a random episode on Coruscant for most of the time. I mean, we had a pirate episode last week, and then we have Lizzo and Jack Black in this latest episode. And the Star Wars, even if The Mandalorian itself was one of my big things, it's like, okay, I didn't like Obi-Wan Kenobi. I didn't really like Andor. Book of Boba Fett wasn't that great, but I'm willing to give Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni another chance on their big main flagship show, which is The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian season 3 has been far worse than even the Book of Boba Fett. I don't know what the hell happened with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. Jon Favreau is writing every episode of these so far. I think he's been a writer on all of these episodes. And Dave Filoni, he pops in from time to time, at least writing. I don't know how involved he is outside of that, honestly. I'm sure he's a producer and whatnot, but in the story itself, Jon Favreau is heavily involved in these stories, and it's getting bad. Now, we move on from this to today's glorious Star Wars story. Daisy Ridley is to reprise her role as Rey in a brand new Star Wars movie. So we have 3 Star Wars movies coming. But it is not a new trilogy. No, it is 3 completely random Star Wars stories. We are getting one from James Mangold, director who's going to be doing a movie that is based thousands of years ago as the first Jedi or something like that. Dave Filoni's movie, which in the past I would have expected and wanted something like this. Oh my god, that sounds amazing. Dave Filoni doing a Star Wars movie. And it still could be, because I still think Dave Filoni can make really good Star Wars. But his thing will focus on the Mandalorian's universe. They're going to collide the stories and bring it into a movie, which is kind of something a lot of people theorized for a while. It could be good, but as the Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian have just not been good lately at all, I'm kind of concerned how that's going to go at this point. And then we have another movie. I don't even know how to say this woman's name. Charmaine, whatever her name is. She is going to be doing a film set after the events of The Rise of Skywalker and feature Daisy Ridley back as Rey as she builds a new Jedi Order. I hear it's 10, 15 years later after Rise of Skywalker. Now, I'm not going to say there's no fans of the sequel trilogy, because I'm sure there is, just like there is probably fans of Obi-Wan Kenobi and fans of Book of Boba Fett. There's always going to be actual fans of that. But I think it's been very clear that the sequel trilogy is an extremely not well received set of movies, okay? You could see it with the toy sales. You see it with the toy sales on the shelves for so many years. They were on the shelves for years after those movies ended. They just wouldn't sell. The merchandise was just not selling. And Star Wars was just... The box office has continued to drop, and then the series itself, they can't even get a movie out now, and then these Disney Plus series are continuing to drop in numbers. The Mandalorian Season 3 is premiering, so even their big flagship show that they were kicking off with, it's like, oh my god, Star Wars is back with The Mandalorian Season 2. It's not reaching those same numbers again, and it comes from such a terrible year of Star Wars. And now we are going into this next phase of Star Wars movies where it still seems like they don't really have a coherent idea of whatever they want to do. And now we're going to be focusing on the character of Rey. I don't think there was many people out there strongly campaigning to bring back the character of Rey. I'm going to be completely honest. Even the sequel trilogy fans, I don't think would are like dying to see a Rey movie, okay? I'm just going to be real. The sequel trilogy, it was a disaster, and she is one of the most controversial Disney Star Wars creations to exist. And they're going to bring her back as the main star of a new Star Wars movie when they are struggling to bring out Star Wars into the theaters again. They're struggling to bring movies into the theaters for Star Wars. And they're going to... What is their big thing? What is their big draw that they're going to bring into the theaters for Star Wars to get everybody back? They're going to bring back Rey. So Rey is going to be the one building a new Jedi Order. Luke Skywalker is the one who should be building a new Jedi Order. This is what we wanted from the beginning of all this crap. Before the sequels and all that, we just wanted to see Luke Skywalker be incredible. And now Luke Skywalker is dead. And now we have to go because they are so determined to stick with this story that they've created. They are willing to go forward with this and do this whole story of Rey building a new Jedi Order. Because they think Rey is some sort of big draw because they're extremely out of touch. And yes, this is, I believe, the biggest fault of this is just Kathleen Kennedy's issue. She is extremely out of touch of what Star Wars needs. And unfortunately, Star Wars is at this point now where even the stuff I liked with Mandalorian and Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni stuff, the Mandalorian is not good this season. It's really bad. The Bad Batch, I feel like, had a worse season just in season 2. And now you're going to continue to push them forward. You got the Ahsoka series that just released their trailer today. I don't think it looked that great. I think it looked really cheap and just kind of awkward for me because I liked Rebels. And now all these characters are just getting thrown into live action, and it's off-putting to me. And the dropping numbers of their big main show, The Mandalorian, I just don't think the Ahsoka show is going to do anything else. I just don't. It could be really good. I hear it is mainly Dave Filoni's project, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I am reaching this point with Star Wars where I have nothing left. This franchise is dead. Okay? I've been very hesitant to be one of those people just straight up just throwing it all over the place that Star Wars is dead. It's the end. It's over. Star Wars at this current moment is dead. It is a dead franchise that they have no idea how to resurrect. They don't know what exactly they need to do. I know exactly what they need to do, and a lot of fans know exactly what they need to do. When Disney bought Star Wars, they had no problem throwing out tons of stories from, the Legends or the Expanded Universe, what they call it now. There's tons of books and stories out there that they're now, reintroducing with the Ahsoka show, for example, the Heir to the Empire stuff. I never read any of that stuff. I'm not going to sit here and deny that. I got into Star Wars probably a lot later than a lot of other people. I got into it with, Disney's purchase, and it was all getting really super hype, and I started rewatching the movies and the shows and Clone Wars, and I got really into it. And I still can see that Star Wars isn't just such a disaster place right now, and George Lucas's Star Wars is just, it's been bastardized into such a ridiculous story now. What they need to do for Star Wars is something that I just don't think they'll ever do. They can't do it. Right now, the way Disney and Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy are, it is an impossibility. And just Hollywood in general. They need to completely retcon, not the sequels, but just, although there's stuff in Disney Star Wars I like, they need to scrap all of it. It needs to just go. It could still exist somewhere. I'm not going to be one of those people saying, oh, it can happen. It can't happen. This is what needs to happen, though. It needs to be scrapped completely. And with the technology advancing now, we need to basically get it out of Disney and Disney's hands. It needs to be out of Disney's hands, Kathleen Kennedy's hands, and you need to restart. Okay, you have the Clone Wars, you have the 6 movies, and I guess you don't even have to bring back in the expanded universe that a lot of people want to bring in. You just need to listen to George, or you have George's scripts out there, right? You have his trilogy that he planned. Maybe do that. I don't know. But you need to go at it in such a different way, and you need to fix it in that way, because you've already shown you have no problem tossing out stories and a bunch of Star Wars adventures and stories that have existed before. Why not just do it again? I think there's a lot of people that would have no problem with the Disney Star Wars stuff just existing on its own, and if you want to fit it into your type of imagining of Star Wars, you can. A lot of people still do that with the Legends stuff or expanded universe stuff. I know they look at that stuff and they still try to fit it into their own Star Wars canon because of what Disney's done. And it works for them. So it can work like that with Disney stuff too. Disney Star Wars, so Star Wars in general, I just can't see it growing as a brand, as a franchise into the future, the next 10, 20 years. If it keeps at this rate, it is going to completely collapse. And it's just going to be pushing out little... I don't even know what they'd be doing in 10, 20 years if they keep doing this. It has been a disastrous, 10 years, basically, or not even 10 years since the sequel started, where this franchise has crumbled. It has crumbled. And now, what are we getting? We're getting a Rey movie of her rebuilding the Jedi Order, and that is the biggest, greatest thing that they can come up with. That's where we're at. And Kathleen Kennedy, she's clearly never going to go until she's ready to go. We all know that by now. So Star Wars right now is not really savable, but that is kind of what you need to do if you were to save Star Wars. Because right now it is not the brand it was. It's not the franchise it was. And I am getting extremely sick of just the awful quality and storytelling and writing in these Disney Plus shows. I'm not feeling the same way I was back when Mando season 2 was coming out and all that. I don't feel the same way about the show anymore. It has fallen off a cliff in terms of quality and writing, and they don't know what they're doing anymore. So as a Star Wars Rebels fan, I should be super hyped about the Ahsoka show. I don't feel much for it. It looks weird to me. It looks cheap to me. And I think a lot of people probably feel the same. I know there's people that are excited. A lot of people like Dave Filoni. I like Dave Filoni, but I've been burned too many times with these different shows where I can't just mindlessly and blindly get hyped for some show that looks cool in a 2-minute trailer. I can't do it anymore. Star Wars is in a terrible place. It is stuck on Disney Plus, and the next movie we're getting, I believe the next one is the Rey movie. So the next movie we're getting is a Rey movie. I don't think that's going to draw anybody in to, come back to Star Wars after the worst, received Star Wars trilogy of movies of all time. Now, it's not, obviously the box office was pretty great because at the time it was the brand of Star Wars. Oh my God, it's the next 3 movies in the whole saga. But in terms of the story and the reception to the movies themselves, they are extremely divisive. And going right back into that story right after as your first next movie, I don't think it's going to work. And we're going to have to see where Star Wars goes from here. I don't know how to feel. I'm in a really weird place. I really am. I don't know how to feel. Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, they're not delivering. And I know he's getting his movie now and whatnot, but I can't care anymore right now until they need to prove themselves again. And I don't know if they can. So Mandalorian, it's not good. And we're getting a Rey movie. That's where Star Wars is.